This week on the Lumber Liquidators PBA Tour, it's a no-holds-barred Eliminator format featuring the reigning PBA Player of the Year, Wes Malott. The international two-handed sensation, Osku Palermaa. The 2009 U.S. Open champion, Mike Scroggins, as well as local favorite, Brian Kretzer. Find out who will survive the Etonic Don Johnson Eliminator next. And welcome to Columbus, Ohio, where today we tip off the final four events of the PBA season, and those four tournaments have been dubbed the Extreme Swing Match Play, Plastic Ball, Marathon, and today's original format, the Don Johnson Eliminator. Rob Stone, Randy Peterson, thanks for spending part of your Sunday here with us. Less than a month left in the season, which means it's time to make that final push, be it trying to move up the Player of the Year points list or simply trying to remain a pro bowler next season on the tour. Both of those factors in play for all four of our finalists today. But the biggest factor, today's unique Eliminator format, Randy.
Yeah, it's real different. The tournament started with a 64-player field, and after 28 games of qualifying, the field was cut to the top 16 and was grouped into four-man groups. They would bowl three-game total pinfall matches with the low score in each group eliminated. This process continued until there were only four remaining. And it's very ironic, Rob, that the last two players to get in, Osku Palermaa and Wes Malott.
It just kind of highlights the eclectic collection of our four finalists today. We have Wes Malott, your reigning Player of the Year. Mike Scroggins, last week was runner-up at the U.S. Open. Finnish two-handed bowler Osku Palermaa and Ohio native Brian Kretzer. But we focus on the challenges that Wes Malott has faced this season.
Well, it's been a tough season by Wes's standards. The reigning Player of the Year has struggled all season long with timing, but still has managed to make four shows, which is a testament to his great talent. He's still looking for his first win of the season, and Rob, he said that to us yesterday that it was the best bowling he's done all season long. Look out for the Big Nasty.
Yeah, when the Big Nasty is confident, watch out. Time now for action and introductions.
Making his sixth career TV appearance, he was runner-up at the 2003 PBA World Championship from Dayton, Ohio. Please welcome Brian Kretzer.
Big fan base here today for Kretzer. He's sporting the proper colors here in Columbus. Scarlet and gray, big Buckeye fan.
And Brian Kretzer doing something that I've never seen him do before. He's been working on it for 4 years, so to speak, and that's the straight ball.
A seven-time winner on tour with two majors, he finished second in last week's U.S. Open from Amarillo, Texas. Please welcome Mike Scroggins.
Scroggins tied for third coming into the week with Chris Barnes in the Player of the Year point race. Regardless of what he does today, he will remain in third, but will be all by himself, trailing Bill O'Neill and Walter Ray Williams Jr.
Mike Scroggins made the show here last year before Chris Barnes and Mika ganged up on the two left-handers.
Strike for Scroggins. Kretzer steps up. He will clean up his first frame.
And there's the normal shot for Brian Kretzer is the hook ball. It's going to be very interesting to see if he can do that under pressure.
He has 6 PBA titles and is the reigning PBA Player of the Year, the undisputed king of bowling. From Pflugerville, Texas, please welcome Wes Malott.
6'5", 250 would fit right in here in linebacker country in Columbus.
And Rob, last night I scored a free meal off of Wes. It was great.
You acquiring a free meal? Messenger with the late kick.
And ask me how much bowling we talked about last night at dinner.
Very little, I'm sensing.
None.
His first telecast came at the 2004 U.S. Open, the 2009 World Ranking Masters champion and member of Team Finland. Please welcome Osku Palermaa.
Jason Belmonte gets all the pub about his two-handed style, but Palermaa does it as well and almost as effectively. Blows up the rack, does Palermaa.
He's quite an athlete, and I remember watching him at the 2004 U.S. Open. He was doing some ridiculous things with a bowling ball, a lot like Jason Belmonte.
3 strikes and 1 spare, the lone spare. To that man, Brian Kretzer. We begin the second. First strike for Kretzer, and again, the low man of these 4 finalists will be eliminated. The 3 remaining will bowl on. 1 will be eliminated, and then we'll be down to our final 2.
I think it's amazing what Brian Kretzer has done and the work he's put in to try to develop that straighter type of shot. He said it really helps him in the early games on the fresh oil patterns.
Scroggins leaves the 7.
And there's Mike Scroggins doing what he does best, throwing it pretty straight right around first arrow. The only southpaw on the telecast today. He will have the entire left side of the lane to himself. No traffic.
Palermaa in the second. Back-to-back opening jacks for the big Finn. Actually, he's more like the medium Finn.
Yeah,
6'1", big Finn. It's got to go to Mika.
Mika's the big Finn.
Scroggins whiffs.
Yeah, don't miss one the whole tournament till now.
Well, remember, he doesn't need the highest score. He just doesn't want the lowest score of the 4 players in this first match.
In this format, you can kind of get caught up with the quick rotation of players. You're up, you're moving, you're going, and you have one little break in concentration. Something like that happens. A lot in the face.
Come on, Wes.
Just barely got by Steve Harmon in the last round to make the telecast by 3 pins. Here's last week's runner-up, the U.S. Open.
Scroggins back on the strike train. Jackson the first and the third as he begins the 3rd frame as Wes Malott steps up to conclude his 2nd frame. Cleans that one up.
Mike Scroggins with that open frame is the low score through 2 frames. Brian Kretzer working on a strike, spare in the first. Looking for his first double.
Kretzer drops the Terrell Pryor. 2. Terrell Pryor, quarterback number 2 for
Ohio
Buckeyes.
State.
Yeah, he drops the Terrell Pryor.
I'm with you.
We're going to have a Buckeye theme for Kretzer today, in case you haven't noticed yet. Malott, strike, spare. Here he is in the 3rd. Walked away, didn't like it.
Boy, as soon as he let go of that one, he was saying, danger, Will Robinson. And that ball gets all the way back for a massive messenger, only to leave the 10-pin.
Palermaa in early control of this one with strikes in the 1st and the 2nd. Osku steps up with his two-handed style in the 3rd. Opening 3 battle.
Osku Palermaa defeated Ryan Schaefer in their round of 8 to make the telecast.
Malott misses. Malott and Scroggins have both missed single pin spares.
That ball almost didn't leave his hand. Watch this.
Down.
Trouble at the
Yeah,
foul line.
some foot issues, that's right.
And just locked on the thumb, no chance to make it.
Very interesting opening three
Boy,
frames
well, you
here
said
from
it.
Columbus. We got a lot more in store with match number 1 when we return.
The Etonic Don Johnson Eliminator is brought to you by Lumber Liquidators, hardwood flooring for less. By Go RVing, visit GoRVing.com for a free video. Go affordably, Go RVing. By Bear Aspirin, expect wonders. And by Etonic, visit etonic.com/bull.
We welcome you back to the 10th Lumber Liquidators PBA event held here in Columbus, Ohio. Mike Scroggins with a big whiff here in the second frame. And Wes Malott, the reigning player of the year, doing the same with some footing issues. And the breeze still almost knocked over that 10-pin. There's Brian Kretzer, unable to take care of the spare.
Right now, it's all about open frames, missed single pin spares. Brian Kretzer was working on a 3-bagger, threw a bad shot, went through the nose, leaving the 310, unable to convert the baby split. Now Wes Malott looking for a double.
Messenger, yeah!
Boy, and he needed that too. That's huge because he was the low scorer out of the 4 players. Remember, low score goes home. Wes Malott working on a strike, looking for a double. What a time to get this massive messenger.
Palermaa will step up now. Osku opened up with a 3-bagger, got a 9 spare in the 4th while we were away. Here he is in the 5th.
Right now, Palermaa with a mark will be in the 2 teens. Brian Kretzer stepping up now is in the 2-0s, 206. Wes Malott at 198. Mike Scroggins 197 through 5. Nice love tap on the 10 for Brian Kretzer. He said he thought this was his best chance to win a tournament.
Palermaa for the spare. Gets it, going back to Kretzer. Yeah, he likes the style because he says it's kind of the way I bowl. You know, I'm used to keeping an eye on everybody else's scores and just trying to keep moving up the ladder and make my little baby steps. And there's Palermaa on top of Kretzer by 12. Scroggins in last, down 21. Needs just to leapfrog one of those guys and he'll get to bowl again. Here's Scroggins in the 6th.
Nice shot there by Mike Scroggins. Behind Wes Malott by just 1.
You can see how easy it is, Randy, to get caught up in the pace of this one. You see Scroggins being a little bit more deliberate after he whiffed on that 7-pin in the 2nd.
But Rob, this pace is exactly the same pace the players use in qualifying. 4 players on a pair. This week, 28 games of qualifying to make it to the top 16. Wes Malott looking for 3-bagger right now.
And there's a 10-pin shy of it.
Well, if he covers the 10, that puts him and Scroggins dead even. But Scroggins is working on a strike. Well, if you think Osku throws it hard with 2 hands, you ought to see how fast he throws it with 1.
For Malott, this will be his 10th top 15 finish of the season, his 4th top 5, his best of the year 2nd at the PBA World Championship.
Remember when his thumb exploded and he ends up losing to Tom Smallwood?
Scroggins tied with Malott for last. Scroggy. Strike number 5. Time now for the Lumber Liquidators. Know the wood. It's the chameleon oil pattern this week, Randy.
39 feet in length, Rob. Area of play will start just right of second arrow for the right-handers, and it'll migrate towards the middle part of the lane as the oil pattern breaks down. Mike Scroggins has the left side to himself, and he will pipe it straight up first arrow. Only 4 300 games this week.
Kretzer, yes! That gets him a double. See a lot of pin action. The Messengers.
It's got to be the shirt. That was through the nose. He got a great break tripping the 3-pin out, but it's got to be the shirt.
Not the shoes, but the shirt.
Ohio State? Come on, Rob.
Malott. Yes.
There's some unusual pin carry. I mean,
Yeah.
he gets the Messenger on that lane, and then something just tomahawked the 7-pin out there. But Wes Malott is trailing Mike Scroggins by 10.
The 7 and the 10 pins today have been resilient. They've had a lot of Messengers having to almost double team them to take him down a couple times. Here's Palermaa.
Osku in the 2 teens, Brian Kretzer in the 2 teens, Scroggins 2-0.
Fourth strike for Osku after a series of 3 spares in a row.
Well, this is fast-paced, man. I'm starting to...
You're sweating a little bit.
Yeah, I'm starting to kind of lose my breath here a bit.
Kretzer down 1. Here he is stepping up in the 8th, looking for a 3-bagger.
Well, another tug shot through the nose, and Brian Kretzer,
my fucking hand.
he knows that he's fortunate just to leave the 6-10.
Good break for Kretzer. Scroggins steps up in the 8th. And this for 3 in a row. He leaves the 7.
Vicious, ringing 7. Mike Scroggins was on a double. He was looking to close the deal. Instead, 9 and hopefully a spare.
6-10 pickup for Kretzer. He takes care of that. Scroggins missed the single pin 7 in the 2nd frame.
Spared it.
And congratulates himself with the conversion there in the 8th.
You know, and it's tough at times for Mike Scroggins, and it has been on television, those single pin spares, and I think it's because his backswing is a little bit behind him, and if his timing gets a little questionable, he misses those single pin spares, left or right.
Boy, when Osku's on, it's fun to watch him just obliterate those pins.
Well, I mean, right now he's throwing a bullet at about 21 miles an hour with a rev rate of about 600 right at the 1-3. The pins really don't stand a chance.
Malott can max at 237. He's looking to get a pair here in the 8th. Little right of target, and that is a tough lead.
And that shot right there might spell the end for Wes Malott. He wanted to double up and get back with Scroggins instead, unless he pulls off a miracle. He'll have a tall order ahead of him.
Big shot for Scroggins here in the foundation frame 9th. Gets them all to drop.
And you have to wonder, is Wes still fighting some of those timing issues?
Open frame for Malott. And he's going to need somebody.
So many demons in your head after going so good yesterday.
Now you see him, you heard him say so many demons in my head. He was talking to us yesterday saying, you know, the thoughts in my head were at a minimum on Saturday. I bowled really well, maybe the best I bowled all season. When those voices creep in, you're in trouble. Kretzer in the 9th, off a spare. His 6th strike. Kretzer in good position to move on.
Well, right now, max score for Wes Malott, 205. Mike Scroggins can go spare strike in the 10th frame and shoot 206. Osku's in the 220s, Brian Kretzer in the 2 teens.
Big shot for Wes.
And that's pretty much
In case I wasn't out of it yet.
the end of the day for Wes Malott. You talk about getting kicked when you're down. You know, you're fighting timing, made a couple of errant shots, missed a 10-pin, and then come back, throw a perfect, only to leave a solid 8.
Palermaa drops the rack again as Malott steps back up. West came into the week 10th on the Player of the Year points list. pick up much ground this week. Scroggins looking for a double as he begins his 10th.
Right now, Scroggins looking to make the 10-pin, and that will pretty much seal the day for Wes Malott. If he were to miss this, he would shoot 194. Wes Malott could throw all three in the 10th to beat him by 1.
Kretzer, the local boy, unable to convert a strike there. Lives in Dayton. Huge Ohio State football fan, hence his jersey there, scarlet and gray. Scroggins, big spare conversion, and that'll send Wes Malott to the showers. Kretzer drops that, and the Buckeye man will move on. His favorite team, though, actually, Cincinnati Reds, as he told me, by a long shot. And there is Malott, the reigning player of the year. His day is done. Scroggins, last shot in the 10th. Enough to move on. Kretzer, wide right. Enough to move on.
Yep, low score out. Wes Malott's day is done. And you could see the disappointment on his face. He felt so good coming in to the TV show today after the way he bowled yesterday. A lot of confidence, only to miss that 10-pin early and then the 2-8-10 late, which basically sealed his fate.
Malott rolls out here. We ask you to head on over to PBA.com right now and submit your more of what matters to you fan question of the day. It's sponsored by One A Day and directed to someone on the show, directed to you, Randy, myself. Simply head on over to PBA.com, click on the One A Day logo. Malott needed that a little bit earlier.
Boy, it's always easy in the 10th when you don't need it.
Osku cleans that one up. Osku will be your high man when it's all said and done here in match 1. So Wes exits.
Wow.
Something got over there in a hurry to take care of that 10.
195 for Malott, 203 Mike Scroggins, 211 Brian Kretzer. Osku Palermaa from Finland, 233.
So Osku moves on, and Kretzer, the Buckeye, still alive as well. Now when we return, a little touch of gray, not scarlet and gray, just a touch of gray flashback to last year here in Columbus as we get set for match number 2. Beautiful day in the neighborhood, literally in the neighborhood. Randy.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the Sequoia Pro Bowl in a neighborhood. The first time I drove here, I'm like, well, clearly MapQuest has betrayed me. And here we are. No, nice day outside, and we come in, live shots inside the Sequoia Pro Bowl as the Etonic Don Johnson Eliminator rolls on from Columbus. Time now for the winning touch. Brought to you by Touch of Gray. Gets rid of some gray, never all. This week's winning touch takes us back to last season's inaugural Don Johnson Eliminator. Chris Barnes, Mika Koivuniemi, Mike Scroggins, and Rhino Page are your 4 finalists. Ultimately, it would come down to Barnes and Mika in the title match, where Barnes took out the whooping stick on his good buddy Mika, won at 258-172. And that win wasn't tough enough for Mika. Well, Mika and Chris had a side bet, and the side bet was Loser has to wear some hideous pants the next time he's on TV. So here are the trousers that Barnes picked out for Mika. And Mika debuted them in January at the Tournament of Champions in Vegas, where he finished 3rd. Speaking of those pants, head on over to PBA.com and you can bid for those game-used pants signed by both Mika and Chris Barnes. All the proceeds will go to the Juvenile Diabetes Research Fund. Just head on over to PBA.com. Click on Mika and Chris on the homepage.
I don't think those pants are that bad, to be honest with you.
I might buy a pair for you for your birthday.
You don't even know when my birthday is.
That's what commercial breaks are for, my friend. Match number 2 of the Eliminator when we return. Mark Roth was one of the legends Don Johnson rolled through in his final victory of his Hall of Fame career. It came at the 1977 Midas Open. He took down Roth 234-205. And then Marshall Holman in the semifinal match put him away 244-227. And in the finals, he defeated the greatest of them all, Earl Anthony, 236-214.
Earl led this thing all week, and he's supposed to win it. But when you beat him, you're supposed to get 2 PBA titles.
I love that line. Supposed to get 2 titles for beating Earl Anthony.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most famous picture that I can recall about Don was when he bowled 299 at the 1970 Tournament of Champions Finals. Don was also my coach, and he was one of a kind. And with no disrespect to Coach Fred Borden, Coach John Jowdy, Don Johnson was ahead of his time when it came to coaching. He was truly the best.
You're not going to tell me his nickname?
The Kokomo Kid.
I love when you say the Kokomo Kid. I don't know why. All right, we begin. Match number 2, Brian Kretzer, a local boy from Dayton, will start us off. Drops the opening rack.
Very impressive what he's done. Like I said in the first match, Brian Kretzer, known for throwing the big slow curve, has worked for 4 years on perfecting a straighter shot, using it today. And wouldn't it be crazy he wins his first title throwing the ball straight?
Here's Mike Scroggins. Done very well at the 4 majors this season. Scroggy, 9th at the World Championship, 25th at the TOC, 4th at the Masters, and 2nd at last week's U.S. Open.
Boy, you would think this would be a big advantage for Mike Scroggins, being the only left-hander out there.
Osku Palermaa, his goal to bowl full-time on the PBA Tour next season. A win today would get him there.
Yeah, we both asked him, hey, if you win, you get the exemption. Are you coming over full-time? He said, absolutely.
Scroggins cleans that one up. Brian Kretzer has gone 166 career events without a victory, 2nd most among current exempt players. Big moment for him, and maybe more so for his family. Leaves the 10. I asked him about that streak, and he said, you know, it doesn't even affect me. I've won titles on 3 continents. I've won some big payday tournaments. That won't define me. You know, if anything, I'm playing for my family. It'll mean more for my mom, it'll mean more for my wife, more for my kids. Scroggins leaves the 7. And the 43-year-old Brian Kretzer.
Brian does have some good karma in this building. He did win a regional tournament just a couple years ago. It was on the cheetah pattern, but a win's a win.
Scroggins has made the last 3 TV single shows. Cleans up the 7. Osku Palermaa made the telecast today after receiving a commissioner's exemption to bowl this event. And he had great success at the World Series Bowl, including the trick shot. How about the two-handed over the chair, shred the rack?
Yeah, that's not a 12-pounder. That's a 15-pounder.
He's the first player in PBA history to ever make the TV finals after receiving a commissioner's exemption. Do you like the idea that he was given that exemption?
Without question. I mean, this guy, prior to coming into this week, bowled in Dubai, where he won. He went from Dubai to Barcelona last weekend during the U.S. Open, went home to Sweden for a day, and then came here.
And I'm pretty sure there's not a direct flight from Sweden to Columbus, Ohio. I could be wrong.
I'm with you on that.
Kretzer. Face of that one. Again, the low man of these three will be eliminated, and then we'll have our title match. Scroggins, back-to-back spares. Osku for a strike spare.
I think that broke the speed limit in this neighborhood, that shot there.
I think I was breaking it as well earlier today. Kretzer down 2, picks up the spare. For Kretzer, this is his 3rd top 15 finish of the season and his 2nd in the top 10. Entered the week 44th place on the PBA point list, outside of the cut line for being an exempt player next season on the tour, but this week's outing has moved him in the positive direction. Scroggins looking for his first strike in match number 2 and finds it in the 3rd frame.
I asked Mike Scroggins, I said, Mike, compare this oil pattern to last week's U.S. Open oil pattern. He said, well, kind of felt like I was bowling on a house shot this week. It's amazing. No letdown from his runner-up finish. You know, at some point, Mike's not exactly a spring chicken. You gotta hit the wall.
Palermaa gets a late kick on the 7 to drop all 10. And Palermaa, he won match number 1. He's on top of match number 2 through 3 frames. The conclusion of match number 2. When we return to Columbus, this is the PBA live on ESPN. Finnish international Osku Palermaa with the lead here early in match number 2, but he may have made a big mistake while we were away in commercial break. He stepped up during the break thinking that he was allowed a practice shot, but he wasn't. So this shot where he left the 10 pin is gonna stand. The house was pumping music, people were throwing out hats, and people were standing up kind of doing a 7th inning stretch, and Osku, again, thought, according to him, that he could get a practice shot. Instead, that practice shot will stand. Slams down the 10th. That was an angry spare conversion.
Well, in his own defense, this is only his 2nd ever telecast. And he just figured, hey, I can get up and throw a practice shot. I'm on this pair. There's a pure bedlam going on right now during the commercial break, and didn't know it.
See if that hurts him or not. A spare in the 4th for Osku. We'll circle that. Here is Scroggins in the 4th. Back-to-back jacks for Scroggins.
And with that, Mike Scroggins takes the early lead through 4 frames. But remember, it's not who leads, it's the low score. The low score will be eliminated in this match. Right now, the low score going to Brian Kretzer.
Kretzer started with the strike, since then a 9 spare and an 8 spare. Here he is in the 4th. Come on, Messenger in front of the 10.
Yeah, and Brian with a spare here will only trail Osku Palermaa by 3 pins.
Kretzer, 0 wins on the tour. Talked to him last night about that PBA cut line, and he was below it coming into the week. He said, you know, it's always there. Outside about 8 or 10 guys, once the season starts, you immediately start thinking about that exempt cut line. And every time I won another match this week, it wasn't about the money, it was about the points and moving up the list.
Yeah, talking about living on the edge, he was outside of the cut number coming into this week, and what a time to have a week where you make television.
3 in a row for Scroggins, who's making back-to-back shows for the 5th time in his career. This week, he moved into the top 25 all-time in career earnings, over 1.3 mil. And the kind of season he's having, he said, you know, probably my top 3, not my best. Had he won the U.S. Open last week, probably would have been his best season ever. Kretzer in the 5th. Needs a strike, gets a strike. A lot of Kretzers in the house. His daughter, Megan, and the other daughter, Madison there, his son, Mason, and his 2 grandsons. Right through the nose for Palermaa.
Yeah, and a bad time to leave the 3-6-9-10. And he just went from a 3-pin lead over Brian Kretzer to trailing now by a pin if he were to convert here.
Kretzer telling us he likes this format, saying I'm not an overly aggressive bowler on the tour.
I'm usually looking at what I need to do to be above somebody or some line, which is exactly what you have to do today.
So back-to-back strikes for Kretzer as he sits down, done in the 6th.
Well, and unlike regular matches where it's just you against your opponent and you have one score to beat, now
Big open frame.
I mean, now there's 2 players and potentially 2 guys, and you only have to beat one of them. To me, that takes a lot of pressure off of you, knowing that, hey, I don't have to be the high guy, I just don't have to be the low guy. Osku Palermaa in big trouble now with an open in the 5th. Scroggins working on a 3-back.
Hambone! Come on, show me those signs. Yeah, smile enough, Scroggy. That was a delayed gratification, Hambone.
Oh, and I just got beat up on my co-host because Mike Scroggins had to go and trip the 3-pin.
Palermaa off that open frame, and fortunate to have that leave.
And Osku in trouble now, halfway through, 6th frame, trailing Brian Kretzer by 13. Kretzer working on a double, can extend it to 23.
3 in a row for Kretzer. He's got Mo on his side.
He said this may be the easiest win for me if I get to the title match. And it's looking to shape up that way. Brian Kretzer and possibly a Mike Scroggins showdown unless Osku can pull something out with 4 frames remaining.
Scroggins made the Eliminator telecast last season, finished 3rd. Here he is, looking for 5 in a row.
Drops the nickel to Scroggy.
Do you think he remembers what happened last year with Barnes and Mika ganging up on him and Rhino Page? Because it was
lefty versus
obvious.
righty showdown.
It was obvious it didn't sit well with him last year, and I bet you he still remembers that. That's in the back of his mind. He says, you know, I'm going to get some revenge on those right-handers.
Palermaa cannot take care of the 10.
Yeah, and right now Brian Kretzer can all but eliminate Osku with a shot here in the 8th frame, looking for another 4-bagger.
Brian Kretzer trying to drop the Kirk Herbstreit.
Give him a Herbstreit.
I'm guessing Kirk was number 4?
Absolutely. College Game Day Zone Kirk Herbstreit lives here in Columbus. Number 4 as a Buckeye, drops the Herbstreit.
He was a quarterback.
Man, you know that. You're just giving me a hard time now. Palermaa in big trouble. Scroggins on top. Kretzer down 12 is perfectly fine for him.
Yeah, but he's down 12 to Mike Scroggins, but he's up a bunch over Osku Palermaa.
Scroggins dialed in right now. He said, you know, after such a draining week last week at the U.S. Open, thought he wouldn't do very well. Had low expectations coming into Columbus. First 7 games, you know, said I was poor in qualifying. Then I got my legs. I got that second win, snuck into the top 16, and he was the only lefty to do that. And here he is, almost in the title match. A much-needed strike for Palermaa.
He got a little bit softer and started opening the lane up a little bit. The best he can shoot, however, only 213. Brian Kretzer's already in the 220s. Mike Scroggins is already in the 240s.
5 in a row.
He's having a good time.
Baby.
That's kind of Kretzer's motto. A couple times last night he said to me, having fun is all that matters. Gotta have fun out there. Enjoy yourself. Great attitude. Scroggins. Kicks the extra point on that touchdown. Two in a row for Palermaa.
I asked Osku, what are you doing after this event? He said, well, we have a week off next week, so I'm going to Paris to bowl a tournament.
Why not, right?
It's the same tournament Brian Voss won last year. Bunch of PBA pros are going over to Paris during the break, and none of them are taking me with them. Can you believe that?
You don't want to go to Paris with a bunch of guys. Take the misses. So Kretzer steps up now, comfortably in second. Scroggins having a great run here. Kretzer 6 in a row, looking for 7 in a row, or the Ted Ginn Jr. Will not get the Ginn.
You had to jinx him right there with the Ted Ginn.
Rapid fire here as we close in on the conclusion of match number 2. Kretzer clears that one up.
Will the straight game get him through one more match and win him his first title? Mike Scroggins shooting a big 250 game. Brian Kretzer 245. Ooh, Scroggy, what are you doing? Was that an area check?
Whatever it was, it wasn't pretty, but
yeah,
he still moves on.
Osku finishing strong. Gets him in the 200s, and what a nice week. The first commissioner's exemption to ever make a telecast.
Scroggins concludes with a 254. Kretzer moves on with a 245. Both of those guys up their games significantly between match 1 and match 2.
So what do you think, Rob, the two-handed style of Osku Palermaa or the two-handed style of Jason Belmonte? Which one do you like?
Well, Belmonte's won, so I like his better right now.
Okay, way to jump on the bandwagon.
I like watching Osku throw the spare ball, though, I'll tell you that.
That was fast.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Coming up after we're done here in Columbus, we stay in the Big Ten. It's Trevin Hughes in Wisconsin, number 17 in the land. Take on the Fighting Illini of Illinois. Men's college basketball right here on ESPN at 2 Eastern when we are done in Columbus. And we are done with match number 2. Mike Scroggins, Brian Kretzer advance to the title match of the Etonic Don Johnson Eliminator. This is the PBA live on ESPN. The Etonic Don Johnson Eliminator is brought to you by Track, Evolutionary, Revolutionary. By Columbia, Columbia bowls the world over. By Etonic, visit etonic.com/bowl. And by the United States Bowling Congress, the all-new bowl.com, your online source for all things bowling. Log on to bowl.com today. Rob Stone, Randy Peterson, welcoming you back to live coverage of the Etonic Don Johnson Eliminator from Columbus, Ohio. Randy, did you fill up the RV today?
I sure did, buddy, because you know how I love a road trip.
Ah, you put in the good stuff, right? Because we are heading to Norwich, Connecticut after an off week. It's the Go RVing Match Play Championship from the Norwich Bowling and Entertainment Center, one of my favorite venues on the tour. Live coverage Sunday, March 21st, 1 o'clock Eastern, right here on ESPN. Time now for, after that, we go to Long Island, the Geico Mark Roth Plastic Ball Championship. Live coverage 2 Eastern on ESPN. That one Sunday, March 28th from the AMF Babylon Lanes on Long Island.
Hey, Rob.
You ready for
Yeah,
this?
well, I hope you are. Now it's time for our one-a-day fan question of the day, and it comes from Pat Omaha.
No, it's Pat in Omaha, Nebraska.
Oh, I thought it was Pat Omaha of New England.
This is
Pat
why,
from Omaha,
this is
Nebraska.
Why I do
now,
the questions.
Here's the question,
Right.
and don't lie. What's your average and what's your high game?
Right. It's hard for me to keep track of my average lately because I take all 4 of my kids to the bowling center and I spend all my time on one lane helping them push those things. So my average is in the 180, 70 range probably. But
Well, I'm sorry, your average is 180 to 170 to 180?
170s, maybe 160s.
For one game?
Or 50s. I'm picking up the whole two-handed thing, though.
Really?
Yeah, I'm actually enjoying it and doing pretty well. I had a high game in the 2 bills years ago. That's it.
Okay.
Thanks, Pat Omaha.
Thanks, Pat from Omaha, Nebraska.
I enjoyed having you do that. I think we might have to do that every week from now on. Have Randy read the one-a-day question. All right, thanks, Pat. We appreciate that. When we return, the Geico Championship recap. We'll get you set for today's title match. Mike Scroggins was runner-up last week. Can he win this week? He'll be taking on Ohio native and Buckeye fan Brian Kretzer. We welcome you back to Sequoia Pro Bowl here in Columbus, Ohio. We're getting set for our title match, the Etonic Don Johnson Eliminator. Nice look there at Peggy Elias, the widow of Eddie Elias.
Yeah, and she's, what a wonderful person, what a wonderful lady. We used to see her every year at the Tournament of Champions when it was in Akron. Eddie Elias responsible for really bringing bowling to the mainstream, getting it on television, getting those huge sponsors. Back in the day, Eddie Elias was the PBA.
Great crowd here in Columbus. Some wonderful signs here. I don't know what that is. The Randy Peterson fan club. Who's that next to you?
Who's the guy in the red shirt? That's not me. I don't bowl left-handed.
We need to come to Columbus more often.
Oh my gosh!
Time now for the Geico Championship recap. Randall.
All right. Well, in match number 1, there were 4 players, low score out. Wes Malott leaving the 2-8-10 in the 8th frame. He gets eliminated with a low score of 195. So our other 3 players move on. And again, it's the low score out. That low score, unfortunately, goes to Osku, Palermaa of Finland. He did bowl 211, however, Mike Scroggins shot 254 and Brian Kretzer shot 245. Guess what? Our title match, Brian Kretzer will be bowling for his first ever career title.
Kretzer and Scroggins both concluded match number 2 with a huge string of strikes, followed off by a spare. They both seem to have found their groove, and for Kretzer, 166 career events without a title, second most among active exempt bowlers, trying to put an end to that pretty grisly streak here today. And he is 1 match away from doing that, but he'll have to take down 2009 U.S. Open champ Mike Scroggins. Our title match in its entirety when we conclude Scroggy, the lefty, Kretzer, the Ohio native, and the righty. The title match when we return to Columbus. Every stinking pins needed. I like that. Great signs this week in Columbus. I like the guy with the cutout. There he is, up there, upper top of the screen. That's one of my favorite. Good look at Tim Voss, the proprietor here at Sequoia Pro Bowl. Always puts on a great event here in Columbus. Wonderful venue to come to in a great city. And earlier today, a check for over $40,000 was handed over to the Juvenile Diabetes Foundation, handed over to Nationwide Children's Hospital. This event raising that money for that wonderful work. And there is the Kretzer clan watching dad and husband and son try and seek his first tour title. And there he is sporting the Buckeye colors. And here's a look at our Bear breakdown. Our title match, the Etonic Don Johnson Eliminator.
Brian Kretzer does have one second-place finish, and that was at the World Championships. He lost to Walter Ray back in 2003.
His last TV appearance prior to today came at the Chameleon Championship in the 08-09 season, where he finished 4th. Here is Kretzer trying for his first ever tour title. Right through the nose, but gets a good break with the 7 dropping late.
And that shot stayed on his hand a little bit too long. Here comes a little loft there, and normally when your hand stays in it longer than you want it to, it's usually a tugged or pulled shot left. Nice break, only leaving the 3-6. Brian Kretzer must somehow find a way to keep his emotions intact and manage his game.
3-6.
Has a lot of family here, has a lot of fans here, and here's Brian earlier today talking about what it would mean to win here today in Columbus.
If I win, my mom won't stop crying for 2 days, and my wife will probably be right behind her. It's horrible to say, you know, with it being my first win, and you know, you got Wes on the show with a bunch of wins and a Player of the Year. It'll mean a lot to me, but I'll be probably 3rd or 4th in my family when it comes to who it means the most to.
Well, the 3-6 got swept off of the left lane. We're waiting for it to
done?
get put back. It's there now. Sweep is up. Should be ready for Brian Kretzer to throw a spare ball at the 3-6.
Worth the wait. So I'll look at Jill Kretzer, Brian's wife, and Linda, his mom. Daughters Madison and Megan here as well. Ditto for his son, Mason. Mike Scroggins, his clan watching home back in Amarillo. Ross, Will, Maggie, wife Melanie. Scroggins leaves the 7.
A little fast, a little fast, a little fast.
Well, he says a little fast, and normally with a lower rev rate going into the pocket like Mike Scroggins has, he's going to leave a weak 7. He did manage a 7-bagger in the last match. And Mike Scroggins, really, the advantage should be in his corner. He's the guy with all the experience. He's the guy that's won majors. And he was a player that finished runner-up last week at the U.S. Open.
Fell to Bill O'Neill, 267, 207. I mean, O'Neill was lights out, but Scroggins just was not dialed in. Scroggins was the #1 seed, but it was O'Neill earning his 2nd tour title and 1st major of his burgeoning career. Scroggins, at 45 years of age, bounced back well here in Columbus. Gets all 10 to drop in the 2nd.
And for Mike Scroggins, he wants to bowl a guy like Brian Kretzer, a player who hasn't won before, because all of the pressure is on the non-winner.
Scroggins, 7 tour titles, 0 for Kretzer. This is 9th year on the tour, 6th as an exempt bowler, native of Dayton, Ohio. A resilient 10-pin.
Back-to-back tug shots for Brian. See how he's motioning like his elbow went around early, his hand got on top of it, and the ball goes left. Again, you're looking at a player who's been working on a straight game for 4 years. This guy is known for throwing the big, slow hook, and finally got good enough at throwing it straight, and it helped him make this telecast.
He liked the pace of this, too. He says, I'm a quick bowler anyway, so that won't hinder me, as he plowed through match 1 and 2, and here he is in the title match. And a lot of folks in Dayton watching Brian Kretzer. He said there was a Sunday morning league, and once they were done, they were all heading to a couple of the local pubs, and the pubs were popping up our broadcast. So we thank them for airing the PBA on ESPN this Sunday. Kretzer. That's a nice break. He has gone through the nose every shot.
Boy, a little home field advantage there. You know, this could have easily have been 3
consecutive open frames. He goes through the nose in the first, leaves a 3-6. He goes through the nose in the second, leaves a 10-pin. This one, he caves in all 10, and right now only trails by 1 pin.
Scroggins up in the third, working on a strike. Messenger! Got one, but not two.
Wow.
Boy, and what a huge break after everything kind of going Brian Kretzer's way in the first 3 frames. Mike throws a pretty good shot here, just a little high in the pocket. Leaves the 6-8,
Oh,
6
my.
goes late.
Scroggy came into the week tied for third on the Player of the Year point list with Chris Barnes. He will now be in third all by himself when it's said and done. Bill O'Neill at 56, Walter Ray Williams Jr. at 52. Scroggins with a second place finish will have 40 points. If he wins it, he'll have 48 with 3 events left on the tour after today.
Yeah, we have a nice race shaping up, especially if Scroggins can eke out a win here.
Yeah.
Strike there for Scroggins. Just a flashback to that Player of the Year point list. Let's go back last week, last Saturday in Indy, where Walter A. Williams Jr. could have, should have been on the TV show and would have earned himself some very valuable points.
Yep, remember he needed 2 strikes in the 10th frame and 7.
Got the 2 strikes.
And he got 6, which ended up tying Norm Duke and Jason Couch leapfrog both of them to make the show.
Kretzer in the 4th. Not getting
Scared to death to throw it
the
good.
big breaks. He's getting some little breaks here by avoiding some open frames, but
Well, and you heard him say he's scared to death of throwing it good. He just hasn't made a good shot yet. There's the hook ball. Right now, Brian Kretzer just needs to buckle down and make good shots. Every time he's made a good shot, it seems like his carry percentage has been very high, and he's thrown a lot of strikes when he gets it off his hand properly.
what does he need to do differently besides getting it off his hand properly?
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of apprehension there, a lot of pressure, a lot of anxiety. Just relax, take a deep breath, and you got to use the Brian Kretzer mantra. Hey, if I win, I win. If I don't, I don't, but just have fun.
Messenger!
Oh
Miss.
my God.
Another shot right through the nose. Another nice break, only leaving a single pin. Right now, Brian Kretzer having some issues, just trying to make good shots here in the title match.
Takes care of the 3. Described the season in one word: horrible. Until Saturday, he said it was the second worst season of my life, the worst since 03-04. The problem, a poor start at the World Series of Bowling, and didn't really match up there, but essentially said it's been mainly me. Scroggins just a 2-pin lead. 2 spares, 2 strikes. Gets the 3rd strike there. Dave Ozio, the general manager of Etonic Worldwide, a Hall of Famer as well here in attendance.
That's right, and I think he was voted the 34th greatest player of all time. You know how I know that?
Because you're 35th.
Exactly. David's just a great guy. I've known David forever. What a great bowler. One of the styles that you always looked at and tried to emulate back in the 80s and 90s, and still today. I know he's going through some wrist problems, so Dave, get well soon, buddy. And that's what Mike Scroggins does best. His opponent is struggling. Mike Scroggins has got a nice line to the pocket, and now he's the one making the good shots.
Scroggins drops the triple as we take a look at some of the other finishers this week. Here at the Etonic Don Johnson Eliminator, Ryan Schaefer coming in at 7th. Bill O'Neill on top of the Player of the Year points list at 9th. His buddy Mike Fagan checking in at 11th.
Well, that's a pretty good shot there, and no carry for Brian Kretzer on that shot. Ringing 10, finds himself down 21 pins, and he really needed that hit to get something going.
Because Scroggins is on a roll right now. 3 in a row for Scroggy as he watches Kretzer. And Kretzer staying clean, and that's good, but he's starting to lose sight of Scroggins.
Three pins. Mike Scroggins has not missed the pocket in this match. Remember, he left a flat 7 in the first, almost left a 6-8 pocket split in the third. Everything else strikes.
There you go.
Best shot of the match right there for Brian Kretzer. Brian still has a possible 237. He's not out of this. Mike Scroggins, a couple of taps. Brian Kretzer could get right back into this, but he's got to throw shots like that. And that's what I'm talking about, Rob. Pocket shot doesn't strike, gives Brian Kretzer hope, because Brian Kretzer now knows if Mike Scroggins converts here, as you see what Mike Scroggins has done in title matches. Let's give Scroggins the spare here, okay? He strikes in the 8th. He's still at 2-10. 2-19 to be exact. Brian Kretzer can get up and go back-to-back strikes. That'll give him 3 in a row. He'd only trail by 2.
Scroggins won the Pepsi Red, White, and Blue Open in Wichita in mid-December. 4th at the Masters. 2nd last week at the U.S. Open. Looking for his 2nd title of the season and 8th of his career. Brian Kretzer looking for his first ever title on the PBA Tour. And again, Scroggins leaves the 7, and again, that door remains open for Kretzer.
Brian Kretzer can strike out for 237. If Mike Scroggins converts the 7-pin, Mike Scroggins can strike out 9th and 10th for 238. This one coming down to the wire, but Brian Kretzer has to take advantage of the opening. 2 of the biggest shots in Brian Kretzer's career coming up right now.
You hear the crowd getting behind Kretzer. Kretzer, native of Dayton, a huge Cincinnati Reds and Ohio State football fan. Let's see what he's got in the 8th.
God, you stink.
Tough one for Mom and his wife to watch.
Lost it wide right. Boy, when he really needed it most, he threw a very poor shot here. It's the first one that's gone wide for Brian. But Rob, it's still not over. Strike here in the 9th frame. He can strike out in the 10th to shoot 217. Mike Scroggins is going at a 218 pace if he were to strike spare off the sheet. It's still anybody's game, even though Brian Kretzer trails by 21. But in my opinion, the only chance Brian Kretzer has of winning is that he has to strike right here in the 9th frame. Right through the nose.
Messenger is rolling still, but will nestle up next to the 7.
Boy, he's really only made 2 good shots this match, and you can see that he's really starting to struggle, and I promise you that he's second-guessing himself right now, saying, you know, I wonder if I should have gone to the hook ball for the title match because of the breakdown of the oil pattern. You know, the first 2 matches, he had some hold area. When he missed left, the ball would lay there and get to the pocket. I'm not so sure that's not there anymore.
Kretzer bowled a 245 in match number 2. Scroggins had a 254, and now Kretzer is sitting, watching and he needs an open frame by Mike Scroggins.
Carry. Yeah!
Scroggy is that much closer to tour title number 8. And that much closer to your player of the year, Bill O'Neill.
Mike Scroggins gets a total of 9 in the 10th frame. He will shoot 206. The best Brian Kretzer can shoot if he strikes out in the 10th frame, 206. Needs a mark. Got to make a 7-pin.
Remember, he missed the 7-pin, single-pin spare conversion in match number 1.
I was just going to say that.
Kind of a hectic pace there in match number 1, and I think he let the pace get to him. Here he is, drops this. He's got the title. And he missed.
Missed 2 7-pins today. Brian Kretzer needs all 3 in the 10th frame to tie.
Drama, people. Drama. Here's Scroggy, that effort in the 10th. And it drops off on him.
Brian Kretzer has not struck once on this right lane in this match.
Only 2 total strikes, both on the left lane. He needs a Brooklyn strike, and will get it! Still alive!
He's only hit the pocket twice in this entire match. Brian Kretzer gets the biggest break I've ever seen. Check this out through the nose. Where did that come from?
I think somebody dropped it from up above.
He's got to somehow find a way to pry it off and throw 2 perfect shots.
Just to tie.
Just to tie.
That looks good. It did, and it didn't curl until too late, and that's it. Scroggins wins it sitting down. Kretzer made it interesting, though. Scroggy will take it.
Boy, Mike Scroggins made it interesting.
Yeah, he did. You're right. Everybody made it interesting.
All right, Michael, great bowling, great tournament.
He's not smiling yet. Tour title number 8. And with the win, Mike Scroggins now has 48 points on the Player of the Year point list. 4 behind Walter Ray Williams Jr., just 8 behind Bill O'Neill. Scroggy very much alive in the Player of the Year point list as he wins Tour title number 8 and his 2nd of the season.
Hey, kid.
Scroggy was runner-up last week at the U.S. Open. He wins it all in Columbus today. We'll be back to wrap it up after this. The Etonic Don Johnson Eliminator is brought to you by Touch of Gray. Gets rid of some gray, never all. By Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% on car insurance. By Golden Corral's Great American Seafood Tour. Crab cakes, coconut shrimp, and tilapia, all for around $10. And by One A Day Men's 50+ Advantage, the multivitamin with more of what matters. Rob Stone, Randy Peterson back here with you. It was a scrappy title match. Mike Scroggins wins it 206, 195, and the victory earns him a good chunk of points. He moves up to 3rd all by himself in the Player of the Year standings. And Randy standing by with Scroggy right now.
Thanks, Robert. Boy, it sure got interesting there late. What went through your mind when you missed that 7-pin in the 10th frame?
You know, it's funny because I didn't miss any during the tournament, and I missed 2 on the show today. It's just one of those things, you know, that you get where you can't make them.
Take a look right here. You can see it in the monitor. What's going on there?
I just got a little left, and just like the first one, I got a little left and missed both of them.
Now, you're runner-up last week at the U.S. Open. You win the following week. At age 45, and I'm sorry I got to give the age out, but at age 45, how do you find the energy to bowl at this level week in and week out?
Well, I don't know. I'm just trying to follow in Walter Reed's steps. I mean, he's setting a trend for the older guys, so hopefully I can do what he can do.
Thanks very much. Congratulations, Mike.
And an early birthday present for Mike Scroggins on Friday. He turns 46. Congratulations, Mike Scroggins, with his 8th tour title. Big Ten hoops coming your way next. Wisconsin taking on Illinois. Good one. We're off next week. Then we return live 1 Eastern, ESPN, Sunday, March 21st from Norwich, Connecticut. For Randy Peterson and our entire crew, I'm Rob Stone. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.